Before the world knew him as Pop Smoke, he was just Bashar Jackson, a kid growing up in the streets of Brooklyn, surrounded by pressure, expectation, and very few exits. Pop Smoke was born on July 20th, 1999, and raised in Canarsie, Brooklyn. Unlike many artists who grew up chasing music early, Pop's childhood wasn't focused on rap at all. His environment shaped him in a different way. Survival first, dreams second. His father passed away when Pop was still young, and that loss changed the direction of his life early. With no father figure at home, Pop leaned heavily on the people and energy around him. The streets became his classroom, and loyalty became his code. As a teenager, Pop wasn't thinking about being famous. He was focused on fitting in, staying protected, and making sure he wasn't seen as weak. That mindset would later define both his image and his music. One thing that separated Pop Smoke from most Brooklyn rappers was his background. His mother was from Jamaica, and his father had Panamanian roots. Because of this, Pop grew up around Caribbean culture, the music, the accent, the energy. That influence would later become a key part of his sound. But before any of that, Pop was still just trying to find his place. He briefly attended a private school in Philadelphia on a basketball scholarship. For a moment, it looked like sports might be his way out. That opportunity didn't last. Pop returned to Brooklyn, and with that return came a harder reality. Without school or sports, the streets pulled him in deeper. He started running with people who were already involved in street life, and slowly that lifestyle became normal to him. By his late teens, Pop Smoke had already experienced the consequences of street life. He had run-ins with the law and spent time locked up. For many people, that's where the story ends. For Pop, that's where it began. Being locked up forced him to sit with himself. No distractions, no noise, just time. And in that time, he started paying attention to music differently. He listened closely to what was happening in the UK drill scene, artists like 67 and Section Boys, and realized something important. Brooklyn didn't have that sound yet. When Pop Smoke came home, something had shifted. He wasn't just another kid from Canarsie anymore. He had an idea, a sound, a vision. Instead of copying what everyone else in New York was doing, Pop leaned into something darker, deeper and more aggressive. Heavy bass, slower tempos, menacing energy. But the most surprising part? His voice. Pop Smoke's voice was unlike anything New York had heard in years. Deep, commanding, almost intimidating. It didn't sound forced. It sounded natural, authentic. At first, people around him didn't take it seriously. Rap was something people tried, not something they expected to succeed at. But Pop didn't care. Pop started recording music with local producers, experimenting with drill beats inspired by the UK scene, but rooted in Brooklyn energy. He wasn't polished. He wasn't industry ready, but he was real. Every bar reflected the life he knew. Nothing felt exaggerated, nothing felt fake. And slowly people started paying attention, not because the songs were perfect, but because the presence was undeniable. Pop Smoke wasn't chasing clout. He was building momentum. When Pop Smoke came home with a vision, he didn't rush it. He wasn't chasing radio hits or industry validation. He was focused on one thing: creating a sound that felt real to Brooklyn. At the time, New York rap was in an identity crisis. The city that once set global trends was now reacting instead of leading. Pop Smoke saw that gap clearly, and then came the record that changed everything. In early 2019, Pop Smoke dropped a song that didn't sound like New York, but felt like Brooklyn. Welcome to the Party wasn't polished, it wasn't clean. It was raw, aggressive, and unapologetic. The beat was dark and heavy, inspired by UK drill, but Pop's delivery made it uniquely American. His deep voice cut through the track like a warning. You didn't just hear the song, you felt it. At first, the song spread locally. Brooklyn parties, car speakers, word of mouth. Then social media picked it up, and everything accelerated. Within weeks, Welcome to the Party became unavoidable. As the song gained momentum, something rare happened. Artists and producers outside of New York started paying attention. Not because Pop Smoke was famous, but because the sound was undeniable. The record caught the attention of industry heavyweights, and soon remixes started appearing. Bigger names jumped on the track, amplifying Pop's reach far beyond Brooklyn. What started as a local anthem was now being played in clubs across the country, and even overseas. New York had a new voice. Pop Smoke didn't just release a hit, he sparked a movement. Suddenly, Brooklyn drill had a face. Artists who had been grinding quietly now had a blueprint. Producers started leaning into darker beats. The energy shifted. Pop became the symbol of a new era, one that felt dangerous, confident, and authentic. Unlike many artists who chase trends, Pop Smoke set one. With momentum building, Pop Smoke moved quickly. New music followed. Performances got bigger. Interviews started rolling in. But the speed of his rise was almost overwhelming. 1 year earlier, he was still trying to find direction. Now he was being labeled the future of New York rap. The pressure was intense, and the expectations were even higher. As his name grew, Pop Smoke started spending more time outside New York. Los Angeles became a second base. The move wasn't about abandoning Brooklyn, it was about expanding. In LA, Pop began working with bigger producers and artists. His sound started to evolve. The aggression was still there, but now it was paired with melody, structure, and growth. You could hear the transition. He wasn't just a street artist anymore. He was becoming a complete musician. But fame doesn't come without consequences. Pop Smoke was still young. The lifestyle changed faster than his circle could adjust. Attention brought opportunity, but also danger. He was everywhere, online, in videos and stories. The same visibility that fueled his rise also made him vulnerable. People around him noticed the pace was too fast, too exposed, too risky. But momentum doesn't wait. By the beginning of 2020, Pop Smoke was no longer just an artist on the rise. He was becoming a global figure. His music was crossing borders. His sound was influencing an entire generation, and his future looked limitless. But behind the success, the pressure was building faster than anyone realized. Los Angeles represented opportunity for Pop Smoke. Bigger studios, bigger collaborations, a chance to evolve beyond the streets that shaped him. He was working constantly, recording new material, refining his sound, and preparing for what many believed would be his defining year. But Los Angeles also came with risks. Pop was young, newly famous, still adjusting to a lifestyle where privacy disappeared overnight. And like many rising stars, he trusted too easily. The attention never stopped. In the weeks leading up to February 2020, Pop Smoke was everywhere online. Photos, videos, stories. The same platforms that helped him grow also exposed him. He was living fast, not recklessly, but openly. People around him later said there were warning signs. Too much visibility, too many people knowing where he was, too little protection for someone at his level. But success has momentum, and it rarely slows down when it should. On February 19, 2020, Pop Smoke was killed during a home invasion in Los Angeles. He was just 20 years old. The news spread instantly. Fans didn't want to believe it. Artists across the world went silent. New York froze. Another voice gone. Another future erased. For many, it felt unreal, like the story had ended in the middle of a sentence. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Tributes poured in from every corner of the music industry. Fans gathered in Brooklyn, lighting candles and playing his music in the streets where it all began. Pop Smoke wasn't just mourned as an artist, he was mourned as a symbol of hope for a city that desperately needed one. New York had found its voice again, and lost it just as fast. What followed was something rare. Pop Smoke's music didn't fade. It grew. Posthumous releases introduced him to an even wider audience. His sound reached people who had never heard Brooklyn drill before. Songs climbed charts worldwide. But the music felt different now. Every lyric carried weight. Every hook felt final. Instead of watching his evolution, fans were left piecing together what could have been. Pop Smoke's impact wasn't just about records or numbers. He changed the direction of New York rap. He brought Brooklyn drill to the global stage. He inspired countless artists to believe that a new sound could still come from the city. And he did it in less than 2 years. Some artists grow old in the industry, others burn bright and disappear. Pop Smoke became something else, a reminder of how fast life can change, a warning about fame without protection, a symbol of potential that never got the chance to fully unfold. Pop Smoke didn't get a long career, but he got something rarer. He got a legacy, one that still echoes through New York streets, one that still shakes speakers worldwide, one that reminds us how powerful a voice can be, even when it's taken too soon.